So this past week, Netflix released their newest live-action anime adaptation, One Piece, and I'm just gonna let you know off the top, I have never seen a single episode of One Piece. I didn't know what the show was about, I didn't know the premise, all I knew is it was a popular anime with over 1,000 episodes. Now, don't get me wrong, I am a casual anime viewer. I mainly stick to the mainstream things. Dragon Ball Z is probably my biggest obsession, but I've watched Attack on Titan, Chainsaw Man, Death Note, My Hero Academia. I'm what hardcore anime fans would refer to as a basic but it's always funny seeing animes get the live action treatment, because I mentioned, big Dragon Ball Z fan. The day Dragon Ball Evolution came out, went to the theater with my friends, just a wee little lad, and it was one of the most disappointing experiences of my life. Like, Dragon Ball Evolution was literally my awakening of, oh, I could pay for something and sit there through torture for about an hour and a half. And really, not much has changed since that time. We still get live action anime adaptations, and they usually end up the same. Just feeling like a big budget cosplay event with cringy dialogue, the giant realization that sometimes things in 2D animated form would look so badass, but the minute you try turning that live action, it looks just so goofy. And I'm not gonna lie to you, when that first trailer came out for One Piece, I was kind of expecting the same thing. As someone who's never seen it, I was like, this looks a little silly, a little dumb. Are people really into this? So imagine my surprise when early reactions for the show were actually coming out a bit positive. It's really the only thing that made me go, alright, well, I've always wanted to see if I could get into One Piece or just understand what the hype is about. I'd rather check out 8 episodes than try diving into 1,000 episodes where fans constantly tell me, gets good at episode 150, 200, that's when you'll be hooked. Don't always have that kind of time, man. So giving you my thoughts on the live action One Piece as a non-fan of the series, not bad. Kind of made a fan here. I sort of get the hype. But I'll be honest, it took some warming up. I wasn't 100% sold on the show after the first episode. In fact, most of the characters and the storyline of just the show in general had me going, I just don't think this is going to be for me, and after this episode ends, I'll probably not hit play on the next. But that might have just been a personal thing. Never really been fascinated by pirates. It's nice to finally understand what the title One Piece means, but it was just me noticing like a lot of common anime tropes that I'm sure One Piece is probably responsible for starting, being that it's one of the longest running. Things like the naive, super overjoyed main character that has just the goal of being the best in the world, paired up with a partner that's usually serious, quiet mouth, and thinks of themselves as better than everybody. I was like, okay, I've seen these stereotypes before, and you really have to settle in to the anime dialogue they try bringing into live action, especially with Luffy.
I'm sensing a little bit of tension amongst the crew. All great fighters call out their finishing moves.
It's a myth.
Can't wait to see the look on your face when we find it.
Because I do want to say, by the end of the show, Iñaki Goody, who plays Monkey D. Luffy in here, makes that role his own. He comes off very likable with such an infectious energy, but it was just like the mannerisms of Luffy I wasn't used to and some of the dialogue they were giving him, where part of me was like, this acting feels a little off, and you come to realize as the show progresses, this just is the personality of Luffy. Bringing me to talk about one of the biggest strengths of the One Piece live action adaptation is its handling of developing the characters. Because not lying to you guys, almost every single time a new crew member or character was introduced that was going to play a vital part in the show's story, was not a fan of them. With the exception of like Nami and Zoro, who I instantly liked right away. Zoro is just a badass, and I can't believe they actually got me rooting for a guy putting a sword in his mouth. Nami, played by Emily Root, is probably the best performer on the show, hands down. She's given a lot of strong emotional scenes that I think she pulls off really well. But when it came time for people like Sanji, Yusuf, or Kobe, oh my god, I did not think I was gonna like Kobe by the end of the season. No offense to the pink-haired wimpy kid, but after they got him part of the Marines, which is like his goal and what he wanted to do, I kept going in my head, why are we cutting back to this story? Why do I care? And by the end, Kobe ain't so bad. And I think it's because the way the show takes each episode in developing its characters to where maybe they don't have the most likable traits in the beginning, but through a look at their origin, how they came up, why they are the way they are, and what makes them a notable member for being part of the crew, I think it's one of the strengths, and it makes me understand why people could get into One Piece if a lot of these storylines are the same as they are in the anime. I think my favorite of the backstories and origins was probably Sanji and Chef Zeph, because again, two characters I had no caring for, no likability towards, and when they explain how these two got together, their mentor-kid relationship, to when then he breaks off and joins Luffy's crew, really ended up loving that, and a lot of the crew members of Luffy have nice backstories like that. And you would think that's a no-brainer, is, you know, taking the strong story points of the anime and translating them well in live action, but so many have gotten that wrong. Too many animes focus on just making the physical look of the show like the anime, and don't get me wrong, One Piece does that well. While I still kind of laugh at characters with like bright pink hair, green hair, blue hair that just feel so out of place, especially Shanks' red hair, the set pieces for this show, phenomenal. The actual boats they built really help bring to life this pirate universe. The things they choose to make practical as opposed to CGI, like a lot of the fishermen designs, great prosthetic work there. We're lucky now to be living in an age of TV where they spend movie level budgets on these shows. While still not absolutely perfect, maybe there's like one or two sequences where Luffy is using his stretchy powers that looks a little odd, but for the most part, it was never to the point that it took me out or made me really go, oh, that is some horrid CGI, my friend. The show was just really able to nail a physical look of the anime while still bringing in a lot of those strong character points. I mean, I've already seen some fans really appreciate the way they handle Sanji, because apparently in the anime, he's like a real horn dog that comes across a little too hard on the ladies. But really, to me, that just kind of explains some of the negatives I was having with Sanji, just like how early on he became such a dedicated member of Luffy's crew and being so obsessed with them and wanting to save them. Which, segueing from that, let me get into some of the things that I still think, you know, we could learn from and maybe change if they want to do a next season, because hey, I would like to see a season 2 and see what other storylines are in the One Piece universe. But big criticisms number one is, look, we just have to get used to the idea that sometimes the stuff in anime does not translate well in live action. There's a real serious scene towards the end of the show that, again, I don't want to give too much spoilers on or dive into if you haven't seen it, but I'll just say it's a serious moment between Luffy and the Nami character. She's on her knees, she's sad, a lot has happened to her. Just the mannerisms between the characters, you could clearly see how in 2D anime form that would probably work, or that's standard and would look fine. In live action, Luffy is just kind of standing over her, chin up, while something really bad has happened to her, and he's like, I will help you. I will help you. I will help you! And it's cringy moments like that that I'm just like, have the perception that in live action, it just doesn't come off right, especially in such a powerful, dark moment that we were trying to have there. The cringy anime dialogue that ruins it sometimes. I also think there are some moments in here of just because it happened in the anime or fans are expecting it, you still have to make it work in live action. So I was talking about Sanji and Yusuf. Sanji to me just randomly came off so obsessed with the crew without really any build up there. I felt like there wasn't enough connection in the crew in this live action version for him to feel that way towards them. But I understand fans will just be okay with it because it's like, oh, that's how he is in the anime. So you just kind of take that leap. Same thing with Yusuf. I felt like there wasn't enough that he did in here that made him feel worthy enough to be part of the crew. I do think like his courage and admiration and wanting to help Kaya definitely made him feel more like a likable character to me, because I just really didn't understand why we would hype up a man for telling fake stories all the time. But he's supposed to be like the sharpshooter of the group, and we rarely really got to see him use these sharpshooting skills. The show had like the courage to make some changes and stuff that just wasn't working in live action form, like with Zoro and how many swords he carries. Because yeah, maybe in anime it looks badass, a guy carrying 3 swords, and for a big chunk of it, it just looked odd, him having those 3 swords by his side, and as the show progresses, they make a change. One that I think works. So overall, that's really it. I think, yeah, a lot of animes could learn from One Piece and take some notes. It's also cool to see people like me now becoming a fan and interested in maybe continuing on. I'm not sure if I'll start diving into the anime now. If Netflix wants to do their funny thing thing of canceling popular shows like they do all the time, then yeah, I'll probably jump on the anime to see where these storylines continue, but yeah, I'm hoping we get a couple more seasons. But again, that's just my opinion on the live action anime. I'd really love to hear from you guys out there, especially if you're a fan of One Piece. Also, for non-fans, did it convert you into one? As well as what anime you think should get the live action treatment next. I know My Hero Academia is on the work by Netflix, and after One Piece, have a little bit of faith in that movie now. But Dragon Ball Z, please try one more time. Don't forget to like, subscribe, follow me on Twitter at 3C Films or on TikTok at 3C Films. But as always, I'm Chris. Take care.